Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to have a look at another collaboration beer. So this one is half Belgian on the home side, half Swedish on the away side. Both of the breweries involved in this one have featured on the channel a couple of times before, and I've really enjoyed the beers that I've had from them. I think I might have actually had a collaboration involving them before as well, if memory serves me correctly. But these breweries are both known for their kind of old school Belgian sour beers, and this is one I think that should be quite interesting because it's got a little bit of a Swedish twist to it. So very much looking forward to trying this one. Hopefully it's another good beer. Hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always, I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, we are going to head down to Belgium for the home side of things. We're going to go to the Flanders region, Vlaanderen, to a little place called Moon, which is kind of to the south of Kortrijk, and it's just a little bit to the northeast of Lille over the border in France. And we're going to have a look at another beer from Brouwerij Alvinne. So this particular beer is called Cuvee Sofie, Cloudberries. It comes in at 8% ABV. It's one of these old school Belgian style sour beers with some cloudberries added into it, and it's brewed in collaboration with Jackdaw Brewery, who come from Uppsala up here in Sweden. So yeah, this beer was released as part of the Tillfälligt temporary assortment through Systembolaget here in Sweden. I think it was released maybe a couple of weeks ago. It was sometime at the start of May, I believe, that this particular beer was released. But yeah, an old school Belgian style sour beer, this one, with Swedish cloudberries added into it. So it should be very, very nice. Let's crack on with this one then and see how we go. It's been a good wee while since I've had anything from either Jackdaw or Alvinne, but very much Jackdaw are inspired by the kind of beers that Alvinne do. So this is almost like a kind of master apprentice type situation that we've got with this one. But yeah, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the breweries before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery websites, the link to my other reviews that I've done, both from Brouwerij Alvinne and from Jackdaw Brewery, and we will no doubt add more to those lists at some point in the near future. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you happen to be interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Belgian beers that I've reviewed for you, and another one for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. Those lists are being added to at different frequencies, of course, the Swedish one more often than the Belgian, but this beer will appear in both of the lists because it is dual nationality. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, on to my brewery notes then, to tell you a little bit about Brouwerij Alvinne and Jackdaw Brewery. And we'll start with Brouwerij Alvinne, since these guys are the home brewery. So Brouwerij Alvinne were founded back in 2004, and it's based in the hamlet of Moen in Zwevegem in West Flanders in Belgium. Like I said to you before, it's a little bit to the south of Kortrijk and a wee bit to the northeast of Lille over the border in France. It's very, very close to that Belgian French border, and it's actually very close to the border between Wallonie and Vlaanderen, of course, as well. Flanders and Wallonia, the French and Dutch speaking regions. But the founders of this company are Davy Speesens, Glenn Kastelein, and Mark de Koikelere, if I'm pronouncing these names correctly. But the current brewer is Frederik Koor. But they had originally brewed some beers back in 2002 at the De Graal Brewery in Brakel, East Flanders, before they moved to Ingelmunster in 2003, and then they moved to their current brewery back in 2006. The brew kettle that they have is a very small one. It's 600 litres, but many of the beers are produced in very small batches of only 300 litres because of the size of their mash tun. But they've got 5 oak fodders, one of which is 75 hectolitres, so 7,500 litres, and they've got a large collection of different wine and sherry barrels as well. But in total, these guys produce around 1,500 hectolitres of beer per year, and they export about 1,000 hectolitres of that. So they're exporting about 2/3 of their output, if you like. But over the last few years, they've built a reputation for these kind of sour and barrel-aged beers, and in total, they've produced around 180 different beers as of May 2022, when we're filming this review for you. But like I said to you, these guys are really known for these kind of old school, woody and fruity Belgian sour beers. Actually, they're very, very nice beers in my experience. I know that this is one of my good friend Davor's favourite breweries, and Davor is the original beer mule actually for Rampant Lion Reviews down in Slovenia. He absolutely loves Brouwerij Alvinne and these kind of beers actually, so this is one of his favourite breweries, so special shout out to Davor of course. But that is all I can really tell you about Brouwerij Alvinne for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that they've done. So yeah, let's go on to the Swedish side of things then, and Jackdaw Brewery. So Jackdaw Brewery, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in Uppsala, which is a little bit to the north of Stockholm, and the company was founded back in 2013. So the three men behind this brewery are Jan Axeas, Fredrik Bjarman and Gabriel Kjellberg. But together they boast backgrounds as chefs, system developers and teachers, and they started homebrewing together in about 2011 because they didn't want to pay and queue for a product that they felt they could potentially make just as well themselves. But they started off brewing batches of 30 to 40 litres. And having received positive feedback on their beers, they drew up a business plan and invested in their own premises, which can be found just out to the northwest of the city by Klista. So they've focused mainly on Belgian beers over the years, and they've collaborated a lot with Brouwerij Alvinne, as we've got in this one. But in more recent years, they've been focusing on sour beers. They were producing a few kind of imperial stouts and stuff like this back in the day, if I remember correctly. But in 2017, they had a Kickstarter campaign to acquire two 3,800 litre oak fodders from France, and the main idea that they had with this was to produce 15 to 20,000 litres of sour beer per year. But apparently in 2019 they brewed 20,000 litres in total, with about 12,000 litres of that being sour beer, and this was blended up to about 20,000 litres in total. And they're just continuing to build up this output over. They've been kind of continuing to build this output up over the kind of coming years. But as of May 2022, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 70 different kinds of beer according to Untappd. And like I say, they do a variety of different things. They've got quite a few interesting sour beers. I need to check out a few more of those. But yeah, they've got some old school kind of imperial stouts and stuff like that as well, from what I remember. So I do need to have a little look at the Jackdaw range and see what else is available, because I do enjoy these kind of old school sour beers actually. But yeah, that is everything I can really tell you about them for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that they've done. But yeah, that little bit about Jackdaw concludes our brewery history section, so we can get on and actually have a look at the beer itself. So yeah, this one comes in, as you can see, this one has been brewed at Brouwerij Alvinne, so this is a Belgian import, this one. I believe I paid about 70 Swedish kroner for this, something like that, so it was about €7, somewhere in the region of, like, that would be about £6, and I guess maybe in the region of $7.50 American, something like that. But you can see 330ml bottle. It's one of these kind of stumpy Belgian ones, very distinctive, and then you have the kind of just plain gold bottle cap on this one. But as we said earlier, this one is an 8% oak-aged sour beer with cloudberries in it, and yeah, it should be really nice. It says it's got Morpheus yeast in it, so got a little bit of the Matrix, I guess. But yeah, there you can see on the bottle, there are the brewery symbols both for Jackdaw and Brouwerij Alvinne. But yeah, this should be very, very nice. This one I'm just thinking, this must have been quite, the fruit that they've put in this must have been quite expensive for Brouwerij Alvinne, because there's been a major shortage of cloudberries over the last wee while. Because of the COVID-19 pandemic, there was the Thai people that usually come to pick the berries in Sweden hadn't been doing it, so there was a big shortage of cloudberries, and so they got very expensive. So yeah, I'd be very curious to know when exactly they got their cloudberries and how much they would have had. But yeah, I'm just thinking, to get cloudberries down in Belgium when this beer's been brewed down there would be kind of interesting actually. But yeah, 330ml bottle, this one. Let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting then. This is the Cuvee Sofie, an 8% old school Belgian type sour beer, oak aged sour I guess we can call it, with cloudberries from Brouwerij Alvinne in Moen in Vlaanderen, down in Belgium, in collaboration with Jackdaw Brewery from Uppsala here in Sweden. Been looking forward to this one since I got it actually, so nice to finally get a bit of time to sit down and review this one for you. Oh, we've got a wee bit of sediment with this. Yeah, a little bit visible there. We'll just let that kind of settle down, of course, but it's all natural. I mean, who cares? So, yeah, that'll take a wee minute just to settle down. But before the head disappears on the beer, we can see that it's poured with about a quarter finger of a frothy, I would say perfect white head. That's faded away to just be a very, very kind of thin, foamy layer. There's a hell of a lot of sediment in that, actually. We will need to let this kind of settle down a wee bit before we take a sip right enough. But yeah, that head is just fading away to be a nice kind of thin, foamy layer, and you can see there's a slightly bigger ring of stuff around the glass there. But overall, it does look pretty nice, this one, I have to say. In terms of the colour of this beer, I would say that this one's got a lovely, very nice, kind of rich amber to it, actually. It's almost the same colour as some of the West Coast IPAs that we've seen on the channel over the years. But so, yeah, remember the colour of your beer depends on 1, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. 2, the length of your wort boil is also going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. Any barrel aging that you do, or any adjuncts that you put in, can affect the colour of the beer as well. And when it comes to sour beers like this, obviously that is going to play a good bit of a role, and you can see that in this one. This beer, I should point that out, it isn't too far away from the colour of Cloudberries, actually. Cloudberries have this really kind of nice and bright, they have this really nice kind of bright orange colour like this. But yeah, it goes together very, very nicely in that sense. So yeah, nothing else I think we really need to say about the appearance of this one. It does have a little bit of a kind of natural haze to it, this beer, but that is kind of to be expected. So you will be getting a little bit of colour from the berries in this one, I would think, and also from the barrel aging. This is kind of interesting. I keep seeing bits of sediment just falling down from the surface of the beer. There are a few things kind of floating in this one. So yeah, that's kind of interesting, but I'll just let you have a little look at that. You can see just how much sediment there is in the bottom of that. That's just crazy, crazy levels of sediment in this beer. But yeah, I think we'll take a little look at the aroma and just there are 1 or 2 things just kind of floating on the top there, but we'll just let the beer settle down that wee bit more and see how we go. Yeah, maybe should have been a bit more careful with the pour in that, but yeah, what can you do? It's done now. So yeah, let's take a wee look at the aroma of this one and see how we go on. Nothing else we need to say about the appearance of this beer. So, oh yeah, that does smell very, very nice. Yeah, these beers for me, the old school oaky sours, they're just really very, very nice. The first impression of this one is, of course, you've got that lovely big smooth woody backbone to it. It's got a little bit of that kind of typical vinous character that you'll always get from these beers. Then you've got the kind of juicy cloudberries just kind of sitting on top of it. It goes together. This whole beer aroma wise goes together really nicely. You've got a little bit of hoppy character, I think, to it as well. Just going to check, this one does have, yeah, it does have a bit of hop in it. I always talk about this in the kind of more modern sour beer reviews, how they don't have hops, but the old school ones quite often do. But yeah, this beer does have a little bit of a kind of grassy green component to it, and I think it's very nice. Yeah, let's try and break this aroma down for you a wee bit more and just describe it more in depth. So, yeah, it's lovely. So straight away with this one, you can smell that lovely big smooth. You can smell that lovely smooth oaky backbone to this one. There is a wee hint of vanilla in there, I think, just a little small hint, and you can smell some of these kind of Werther's original butter candy, butterscotchy notes too, and it has got a little bit of that kind of white wine sort of vibe to it. So I really like how all of that kind of pieces together in this particular beer. But aroma wise, I have to say this one is very, very nice actually. Big, big thumbs up from me for sure. Yeah, just beautiful, beautiful smelling beer, I have to say. I really like it. Yeah, so on top of that nice woodiness, I think I do get a little tiny bit of like a kind of brown bread or something like that, but not a lot. I think this beer really is. It's the smooth oak. You get the little bit of vanilla, the little bit of the kind of Werther's Original butter candy, the kind of white winey notes out of it. Other than that, I don't think there's too much to say on the kind of woody and malty side of things. Actually, I'm sure we'll get a little bit more complexity out of it, out of that when we actually taste it right enough. These beers, I find the aromas are very, very nice, but they're not the most complex of things. But yeah, the flavours that you get, these are the kind of beers that take a little bit of time to just open up and really show you what they're all about. But yeah, the aroma from this one is very, very nice. So beyond that, I think I've got a feeling that this one will be using, a little bit of, Hallertauer Tecknanger, maybe one of these German hops. What they tend to do with these old school sour beers is that they put old hops in them, and the main reason they do that is that so the hoppy bitterness doesn't take away from the sourness of the beer. If a hop's a little bit older, the alpha acid and the beta acids are not going to be quite as pungent as they are. The alpha acid is basically like how bitter is the hop going to be, whereas the beta acid is how long is that bitterness going to last for, if you like. So yeah, that's kind of how it goes with these. But with this one, you do get a little bit of green component. There's a little touch of a smooth earthiness to it, a little bit of herbal character, and you can at the front of the nose smell a really nice little bit of floral character, and also some. You also get a little bit of floral character, and also a wee bit of kind of grassiness to the beer as well. So that's very, very nice. But yeah, you're getting underneath the cloudberries. We'll come to the cloudberries in a minute. But underneath the cloudberries, you're getting a few sort of. I'm getting a little touch of like gooseberry out of this one, and a little bit of pear. These things are quite typical aromas for this particular type of beer. You'll always get just a little bit of an oily gooseberry or peary kind of note to the beer. But then on top of that, you've got the juicy cloudberries. And cloudberries, they're a very distinctive aroma. It's very, very difficult to compare them to anything else actually. But those of you watching in the States and stuff like that are going to have no idea, I guess, what these smell like, unless they're imported or whatever. But yeah, those of you watching back home in Scotland might be aware of the cloudberry, the copperberry, cloudberry cider. That's probably the exposure that people back home in the motherland would know about cloudberries. But they're a very tart berry. They're this kind of orangey colour like that, and they've just got a really distinctive flavour to them. I really like cloudberries actually. But yeah, other than that, I don't think we really need to say anything more about the aroma of this beer. But as I always say, take a wee bit of time to just ponder all of that over before you actually get stuck into it. I think it's about time that we have a taste of this. So yeah, this one is the Cuvee Sofie Cloudberries from Brouwerij Alvinne in Moen in Vlaanderen in southern Belgium, brewed in collaboration with Jackdaw Brewery from Uppsala here in Sweden. Let's get stuck into this one. Slange, skål, cheers, prost, santé as well. Belgium, many languages there. Cheers. This one, 8% sour beer, I should say. Ooh. Yeah, that's very, very nice. I have to be honest and say, I was expecting this one to have a lot more kind of a puckering impact to it, but it's actually really, really nice and very, very smooth. I really like how this, I do really like how this goes about its business. I've been told that's a bit of a catchphrase that I have on the channel now. I say it, oh, I like how this goes about its business. Yeah, this is lovely. This is lovely. It's not quite what I expected, just in the way the flavours go together, but in the same sense, when I think about Brouwerij Alvinne, it's nice. I expected this one to be a little bit tarter than it is, but it's actually a very smooth and kind of oily, silky oak sour. This one, I really like this. It gets a big, big thumbs up from me, I have to say. Yeah, this is very, very nice. Yeah, yeah. This is very, very good. Very happy with this one, I have to say. So I'm just thinking, where do we start with this one? It's definitely, you can feel it getting kind of smoother and sweeter the more sips that you take of it, but it's a beautiful, beautiful beer, this one. Um, it's I do remember some of the Albion ones I've had before being a little bit sharper and sour than this. Of course, it was Davor that gave me those, but in fairness, I think those bottles were a couple of years old, so maybe when you drink these beers a little bit younger, you know, when you drink these beers a little bit younger, they will feel a little bit smoother and slicker. Whereas the older they get, maybe they do get a little bit tartar, more tart. Do you say tartar or more tart? I don't know. But maybe that's what happens, because these types of beers, you can age and just let them mature a little bit. Quite a lot of people have big cellars full of these things. I know that Davor is one of them. So this is lovely. Let's break this down then and just describe the flavour for you. So the middle third of the palate, you've got that really nice, you do have that really nice kind of smooth oaky backbone there. I think that goes together very, very well. So lovely smooth woody backbone. Um, the further you go into the aftertaste with that, you start to get, it tastes like American oak actually. I think American oak is a little bit smoother than European oak in fairness, but you get that lovely, you do get that lovely, just very, very smooth character to it there. Toward the front of that middle third of your palate, you get a little bit of a kind of, you do get a little bit of a vanilla character. You get a little bit of vanilla, you get a little bit of a kind of nutty note to it as well. And then behind all of that, you get this sort of Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotchy sort of thing coming out of this beer. And I really like that. I think this, it goes about its business very, very nicely, this beer. Yeah. Mm. It is really nice. But on top of all this woodiness, you do get this sort of, you know, you get this kind of typical vinous character coming out of the beer. You get this layer where it's like, it's almost kind of similar to what you get with white wine. It's got just this layer of kind of wet, fruity character to it, and it is a little bit like a, you know, a white sort of green grapey kind of thing that you're getting out of this one. On top of that, I do get little hints of, you know, a slightly brown bready character. And there's maybe a little bit of a layer of a slightly brown wholemealy bready sort of thing. Then there's a wee bit of a kind of McVitie's digestive biscuity. There's a little bit of a McVitie's digestive biscuit vibe to this beer. So yeah, the way that it goes about its business in that sense as well is very nice. But this beer, it really leans towards that very smooth vanilla butter candy sort of oaky note, which I really like. Yeah, I really think this is a lovely beer. This one, I really, really like. I do really like how all this kind of just pieces together. It's one of these beers that really opens up in it. I'm just surprised at how smooth it is, but it is lovely. I've repeated that a few times. Other than what I've said to you, I don't think there's too much to report in the middle third of the palate with this one. So let's have a little look at the back third of the palate then. The border region between middle third and back third of your palate, you get a little bit of a kind of bready build up there. You can feel there's a wee bit more bread crust and things. Then the base of that back third of the palate, the woody character is just a little touch drier. You can feel on top of that you get a little bit more. I think there is a slightly kind of light, fluffy, brown bready kind of character to this one, which is really nice. But yeah, it works. It really does. So a little bit of smooth, woody kind of character there. There's a little bit of a light, fluffy, bready sort of thing, as we say. Then on top of that, you start to get a little bit more of a bread crusty note. You do get some of the kind of yeasty characters coming out of this beer too. So the yeasty note sits on top of all the things at the back of the palate. You can feel there's a little bit more of a dense. There is a little bit more of a kind of dense, doughy, yeasty kind of thing. So you have a little bit of a dense kind of brown bready character. Outside of that, you have a little bit of a. Outside of that, you've got a little bit of a, you know, this more kind of grainy bread crusty sort of thing. You do get a little bit of an almost Jacob's cream crackery note out of this on that back third of the palate as well, but that's all the yeasty side of the beer. But definitely, as you always get, I think the flavour's a little bit taller on the back third of your palate. Then as you come further forward, it just condenses down a little bit, it squashes together, and that's where you get that nice kind of dense, woody, white, winey, and very slightly bready and biscuity note. Yeah, flavour profile of this beer gets a big, big thumbs up from me. It's really nice. Yeah, very good. So, I don't think there's anything else we need to say about that. The malty kind of backbone, malty barrel aged backbone of this beer. Let's go on to the hoppy side of things then. So, back corners of the palate, you get a nice little bit of earthiness in there. There's a little bit of that. It's quite a smooth earthiness. Remember what I said about the hops earlier? It's old hops that have been added into this. But yeah, a little bit of earthiness in there. As you move further forward, it gets a little bit herbal, and that kind of slightly herbal character remains all the way to the kind of front corners of the palate. You've got a little bit of a kind of floral, aromatic sort of thing to it, but then round the front curve of the palate, it's a little bit lighter and grassy, and the oily, the green component with this one is very, very smooth actually. And when the beer is, barrel aged or fodder aged, as this one probably is, you can I think it is fodder aged, just going from the smoothness of the oak and the kind of vanilla notes and things. I'm pretty sure this is a fodder aged beer. I don't think there's much doubt about that. I love the fodder aged stuff though. The smoothness you get out of these is just lovely. But yeah, the green component you get out of this one is very, very smooth. But let's focus on the fruit, on the front third of the palate, the kind of fruity aspect of the beer. So the border region between front third and middle third of your palate, again, you get a little bit of a bready build up there. The base of that front third of your palate is really smooth and woody, and you just have a wee touch of that. You have a wee touch of that kind of breadiness in there as well. You get a little bit of the vanilla, I think, coming forward too, but lovely, as I say. So yeah, on top of that, you get all the nice fruity sort of things coming out of it as well. Yeah, so on that fruity side of things, as I was saying earlier, with this beer, you get a sort of layer on that front third of your palate. You've got a little layer of this mix of, it's mainly gooseberry. I think it's quite a bit of gooseberry you get out of this one, but you do get a wee bit of an oily pear too. But you can certainly feel that on top of that oily layer that's the base of the fruit, you can feel the cloudberries sitting there, and it surprises me a little bit because the cloudberries are actually quite juicy in this one. They don't have so much of that tartness. Like if you eat a raw gooseberry, it's tart as fuck, but you don't get all of that much out of this beer. You can feel some of the cloudberry juiciness just spreading around the sides of the palate there, which is really nice. So yeah, this beer has a really lovely, it just has a very lovely kind of juiciness to it, and I think all of that just pieces together very, very well. Yeah, it's very, very nicely done, this one. So it gets a big, big thumbs up from me. Yeah, other than that, I don't think there's really much we need to say about this, about the flavour of this beer. So we round off with the mouthfeel then. Overall, I would say that this beer, it's kind of right in the middle of the spectrum. The carbonation is very, very smooth. It's got a nice oily, slightly slick mouthfeel to it, which again I very much appreciate. But yeah, in terms of IBUs, I think not a lot of IBU. In this case, I think it's 10 at most, something like that. But the malty kind of barrel aged side of this beer is very, very smooth. There's a good little bit of an oily sweetness to it as well. Then you've also got that kind of juicy, fruity character to this one. The sour side of this beer it's not really that sour at all, to kind of be honest with you. It's a little bit more funky rather than anything else. But yeah, beautiful, beautiful beer, this one from Alvinne and Jackdaw. I've really enjoyed this. I would be curious to know though, if you kept this beer and aged it a bit, would it get slightly more kind of tart and things? Because obviously, the yeast is still doing work the longer it sits in the bottle. But yeah, I think we can leave it at that for this. This has been a really nice experience, this beer. So pick one of these up and see what you think of it. It's certainly interesting and a wee bit different from what we've had from either of these breweries in the past, in my experience. But yeah, let's leave it there. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on these beers in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Brouwerij Alvinne and Jackdaw Brewery. We will no doubt return to these guys both at some point in the fairly near future. But yeah, in the meantime, check out my social media, check out theirs. Thank you again for watching, and I'll catch you guys very, very soon. The Cuvee Sofie, an oak aged sour beer at 8% ABV with some cloudberries added into it, from Jackdaw Brewery, brewed in collaboration with Jackdaw Brewery from Uppsala here in Sweden, but brewed at Brouwerij Alvinne in Moen, Flanders down in Belgium. Slanje, skull, cheers, catch you guys on the next review.